Greetings, LEGO fans! As you can easily tell from the title of this video, my YouTube channel is turning 1 year old this week. With 44 videos and over 13,000 of you hopping on board over that time, it's safe to say that it's been quite the adventurous year. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's really you guys that keep this thing going. In celebration of this 1 year milestone, I thought it'd be fun to revisit all the videos I made over the past year and give some backstory and behind the scenes anecdotes on each of them. It's taking a leaf out of R.R. Slugger's playbook for sure, but I found that format so fun that I couldn't resist giving it a whirl. I'll add my own spin by giving each video a ranking out of 44. And though I'll be talking about them in chronological order, I'll go ahead and put the ranked list and links to each of the individual videos in the description. So, without further ado, let's rewind the clock to the beginning. Okay, so I haven't actually written a script for any of these, so this will be a little more off the cuff than usual, but the first official video that was intended for release to the general public was this My Lego Ceiling Train video. Now, I didn't actually make this for YouTube. I actually made it a few months earlier for a Facebook group called Adult Fan of Lego. And I just wanted a way to share the Lego ceiling train that I had built. Fun fact about this whole system is that it was back in December of 2023 that I kind of just came to my wife with the idea of building a train around that whole game room. And she said, "Oh, that sounds fun." And I took that basically as, go ahead and do it. So it was maybe 3 days later, I had the whole thing done, and she actually hadn't been in the basement during that whole time. And she came down and it was all built and painted and ready to go, and she was like, "What?" I actually wish I had had my YouTube channel back then, because I think that would have made a really fun video, the whole process of building that. I might try and make a video that kind of tries to represent what that process was like, but I know that it'll never quite capture the essence of actually building it. But anyway, this I actually filmed all on my iPhone, and I was actually testing out the Apple ProRes feature that had been introduced, I believe, with the iPhone 15. And I think it turned out pretty good for something shot on an iPhone. Certainly a phone gives you an opportunity to get cooler shots. I was able to put the camera in some places that I otherwise wouldn't have with a full-size camera, so that made it pretty fun. It was meant to be something fun to put on Facebook, and that was the end of it. But when I had the idea to start a YouTube channel, this was the first one that I posted because I already had it made, and I wasn't really sure what the direction of my channel was going to be at that point, and so I just thought, hey, I'll throw this up and see if it gets any attention, and luckily it actually got more than I thought it would initially, and so that kind of encouraged me to keep going. So this one I'll give the 43rd spot out of 44, because obviously I didn't really know what the direction of my channel was going to be, and it doesn't really necessarily fit in with all the other videos on my channel, but it's still something that's fun for me to look back on. The next video I put out was the new Lego Room Grand Tour. Now this one was me kind of trying to go in an almost Brixy direction, or like a Jang Bricks direction, where I basically just made vlog videos about the progress in my Lego room. That was an idea that didn't exactly go very far, but it was fun to show everyone my Lego room and show how everything was organized. What's funny about this one is that my voice is kind of a little more lowered in tone because there were other people in the house at the time, and because I hadn't really established myself as a YouTuber, I was still a little self-conscious about it because I haven't really made any proof of concept yet, and so the idea of like, oh, I'm going to become a YouTuber was almost a little embarrassing to me, so I was kind of keeping things a little lower in tone, and so naturally my voice inflection is a little more, I'm not going to say monotone, but just a little less excited than it eventually became in the future. Fun fact about the filming of this video, I actually filmed it on a Ronin 4D, which is a camera that has the gimbal built in. It's one that I use at work, and I had been working on a project that required me to take the camera home, and so while it was there, I just thought, hey, I'll use this to film everything, and so that's how I got those steady cam shots of everything, which is kind of fun. Production value-wise, it's not really anything crazy great or anything, so I actually ranked this one 44 out of 44 because it's the one I go back and revisit the least. Now next is a really exciting one to talk about because this is when retro Lego was born. So after making the room tour video, I thought, okay, what else do I really want to talk about? And then I realized pretty quickly that I wanted to talk about my favorite Lego theme of all time, Western. Ever since Christmas of 1996 when I got Fort Legoretto, I've just loved the Western theme, and I thought it'd be fun to go back and revisit those sets and do a ranking video, because I noticed that ranking videos were pretty popular on YouTube, and so I thought, what the heck? And so on a whim almost, I decided to call it Retro Lego. And a fun fact is that the intro that I did there, where I say, "Greetings Lego fans and welcome to Retro Lego," that is the only one of those I've ever recorded. So I've actually used the audio from the Western video at the beginning in every single episode of Retro Lego since. And because it's synced up to the mouth animation that I did for it, I've also been able to reuse that mouth animation for every video that came after it as well. Of course, I still have to keyframe it to the movement of the minifigure, but the actual animation of the mouth itself is something I could reuse. So saved me a lot of time there, and just a fun little fact. Now you'll notice the format of this one looks pretty different because I didn't really have any idea how to showcase these, and so I actually just filmed them on a white shelf in the corner, which kind of made it look almost like a Jang-style white void. And it worked well enough, but I do look back on this video and think, oh man, if I had made that today, it would have been so much better. It's possible that I might cover the Western theme again at some point, especially once I get the Indians sets, and kind of do a ranking that includes all of them, both the Cowboys and Indians. Of course, Indians will get their own episode as well, but it'd be fun to sort of do a pseudo remake of this one by combining all of the Western sets together in one video eventually. So that's something that'll probably happen, and then all of these beautiful sets will once again get the retro Lego treatment. There were a few sets that I wasn't able to feature because I didn't have them. The covered wagon, which I eventually got and was featured in a later video, and the Bandit's wheel gun, which was also featured in that same video, the one I opened brand new. Those are ones that I could feature in a future episode as well of Retro Lego. I actually ranked this one as number 23 out of 44 on the list. It definitely gets up a little further on the list because of its importance to the overall direction of the channel, but I must admit that when I watch it, I go, oh, there's a lot of things I could have done better there, so that's where it sits. Okay, on to the next one, how to save money on retired Lego sets. This was one of the original ideas that I kind of sketched out when I thought, hey, I should start a YouTube channel, because I had recently parted out the Town Hall set from Bricklink, and that was a whole experience, a whole learning curve, and I thought, hey, I could turn that into content. So I actually filmed this pretty much before any of the other videos, because I had the idea, oh, I might be starting a YouTube channel, so I should gather some videos and time lapses of me putting these things together for a future video. And that's when I was able to finally complete the town hall, is when I decided, okay, I think I'll turn that into a video. Yeah, I'm fairly proud of this one. I think it was pretty informative. It certainly missed a few things, like the idea that you can go to a Bricks and Minifigs and search for the pieces that you need in a bulk buy, which could save you a lot of money on shipping. Didn't really mention that as a possibility, but it's certainly something that could help save on costs there. But it definitely was really rewarding to go through this whole process and get the town hall in my city in kind of a less conventional way. One funny thing about this video is I wasn't quite sure what the balance of stop motion animation and just voiceover was going to be, so I think I way overdid it on the stop motion. I was taking so much time doing the mouth animations for a lot of these just kind of filler sentences, and so I decided with this video, like, okay, I'm going to need to put a limit on how much stop motion animation and mouth animation I'm going to do, because this is going to take way too much time if I do this much every time. So it was informative in that way as well. I ranked this one as 30 out of 44. A pretty honorable spot for an early video, and I think it feels right at home there. Okay, so the next video was my Retro Lego ranking of the original Toa. This was the sophomore outing for the Retro Lego series, and I basically chose this as a topic because I had recently found all 6 Toa the Toamata at least, on Facebook Marketplace. And so I had recently gotten them in my hands, and so I thought, hey, this would make a great ranking video for retro Lego. I was still trying to find the style for retro Lego, but you'll notice that this is the first time that I started using color backgrounds. And I think particularly for this video, it added a lot of vibrance to the overall aesthetic, and because the Toa are so colorful themselves, it definitely fit. There's kind of a mixture of photography and video here, which is interesting, though it doesn't really jive with the future episodes that came after it. At this point, the Western video had really started doing well, so I thought, okay, Bionicle, that's a really popular theme. This is going to do super well as well. And it certainly did not have the performance that the Western Retro Lego episode did. And still on the channel, it's one of my lower viewed videos, so I was a little disappointed in the performance of it, but that's just how YouTube is sometimes. I actually started getting in my head about it, like maybe the thumbnail isn't right. And of course, when I was early starting in YouTube, I was watching all sorts of like, this is how you do YouTube sort of things. And a lot of the advice was like, well, change your thumbnail because the thumbnail's not working. I since have kind of dropped a lot of that canned advice because it just wasn't really working for me. So I changed the thumbnail a few times, but I realized the first one I made, I liked it the most, and so I changed it back to that pretty quickly. And ever since that point, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to do what I want, and if the audience likes it, then that's great, and if the audience doesn't respond to it, well, that's fine too. As long as I enjoyed making it, that's really what counts. I ranked this one as 35 out of 44, so kinda near the bottom, but there's definitely a handful that I didn't think worked quite as well. The follow-up to the Bionicle Retro Lego episode was the Retro Lego Time Cruisers episode. So I was definitely starting to follow the philosophy of just do what you want, because obviously Time Cruisers is not one of the most popular Lego themes in history. It has developed a bit of a cult following, but it still isn't an overall beloved theme like so many others. But I really liked Time Cruisers as a kid. I particularly loved the whirling time warper and have such fond memories of that. And I had recently acquired it, and so I thought, you know what, I'll pick up a few more of these sets and make an episode out of it. Now, the intro to this one has still got to be one of my favorite intros that I've made so far. I just love the entrance there and the skid. It just, it's super fun, and I really had a lot of fun making that. The rest of the video, however, there's definitely some things that I look back on and think, I should have improved on that a bit. First off, I just think the amount of sets that I had at the time didn't really justify making a full Retro Lego episode. Definitely a lot of them were just showing pictures, and I don't love to do that if I can help it. So it would have been nice to have at least had the train or the base or the flying time vessel, something to make it feel like more of the sets were being shown instead of just pictures. This is the first video, however, that featured the turntable, and that has been something that's been consistent throughout the rest of the Retro Lego series and other videos on the channel as well. I picked that thing up for, I think, 80 bucks on Amazon, and it's worked really well since. Even though, as you'll see in one of my behind-the-scenes videos later, it's super loud, so you can't really use it with anything sound-wise, but it's definitely worked very well on the visual end of things and has lent to one of the signature parts of my style on the channel. Despite the really strong opening that I still love to this day, I'm ranking this one 37 out of 44 because among the Retro Lego episodes, it's definitely the one that I look back on and think, that could have been improved quite a bit. Okay, so the next video was kind of an interesting one because I thought, okay, I'm starting to get into the groove of this retro Lego thing, but I still love a lot of current Lego sets, so I want to establish myself as someone who delves into both. And so I made a review of the double-decker Sightseeing bus that was released in June of 2024, the 1st of June. And I like reviews that get straight to the point and are not too bloviating and going into way too much detail. So I decided to make this one quick and succinct and not take too much time. So it ended up being about 3.5 minutes long, which I thought was perfect for a small set like this. I do recall being a little rushed on this video because a lot of things were happening the week that I made it. So I feel like the opening animation had a lot more kind of mistakes in it than I would have usually tolerated, but I thought, you know what, I'm trying to get monetized, so I got to put a video out every week, and so this is what came out. It didn't exactly perform very well. It's actually still one of the lowest view count videos on my channel. But I am proud of the review itself. I think that it got my point across in a quick amount of time and threw some humor in there with the Rock Raiders monster trying to fit in there. So I have this one sitting at 31 out of 44. Okay, this next one is a big one, the Retro Lego Adventurers Desert ranking. This one was so much fun to make. Adventurers, particularly the desert theme, was hugely important to me as a kid, and this was one episode that I really wanted to make. And it just so happened that I found a copy of the Pharaoh's Forbidden Ruins on Facebook Marketplace for $90, which was an absolute steal. And so that, to me, justified grabbing a few more of the sets and making a full Retro Lego episode on them. The funny thing about this one is that I still didn't really have much of a Lego budget, so I ended up constructing some of the smaller sets out of the pieces from the bigger ones, which actually worked pretty well. The only really obvious one is the Mummy's Tomb, where the doors aren't even attached. They're just kind of sitting there because I didn't have the pieces that had the door hinges. But the other ones I think work pretty well. The Adventurer's car has a couple of anachronistic pieces in it. The arches in the back are the newer style rather than the older style, which, believe me, was pointed out in the comments, but I think it was a good enough representation of those sets to work. I have since gotten my hands on the Desert Expedition set, and fun fact is that after I filmed this video, I thought, oh, I've spent too much money, I need to sell some of these sets, and so I sold the Sphinx set, but since then, I've regretted it, and I bought it again. So I have it again. So I actually have in my possession all of the standard release desert sets. I still don't have the limited release ones like the Adventurer's Car and the Valley of the Kings and the Mummy's Tomb, or not the Mummy's Tomb, the Adventurer's Tomb, that's what it's called. And this is the video where I really felt like I started hitting my stride. Like I'm still to this day pretty proud of how this one turned out. The background is actually a red piece of construction paper, but I shined a couple of lamps on it so that it made it look really bright and orange, and it really lent to a good feeling of being in a hot desert. And I just was really happy with the aesthetic of this video. And the audience response was really strong to this one, and this is the one that pushed me over the edge of monetization, so it's important to the channel in that way as well. This is also the first episode that people started accusing me of using an AI voice, which, I'll be honest, as a person who hates it when YouTubers just use generic AI voices, that didn't really sit well with me, so actually, in the next video, I decided to show my face just to be like, hey, this is actually me talking. I know, sorry, I sound like a robot, I guess. So anyway, this video to this day is still one of my favorites on the channel, and it's all the way up at number 6. Okay, so the Adventurer's Desert episode is what pushed me over 1,000 subscribers, so it was time to celebrate with the 1,000 subscriber special. So I decided to do a face reveal as part of that, and part of the reason for that, like I mentioned before, was to prove that I wasn't an AI, but it was also a fun opportunity to do a Q&A, which I really like the interaction that these videos give. It's just fun to see what questions you guys have and turn it into a discussion. I never expect these videos to perform particularly well because they're definitely made directly for people who are more loyal followers of the channel, but they're super fun to make. It was also fun to just share a little bit more about myself and my background and some of my other hobbies and kind of just let you guys know a little bit more about the guy behind the camera. These types of videos are hard to rank, but I put it at 39 out of 44 because even though they're super fun to make, they're definitely a lot lower effort, and so ones that I don't really revisit quite as often. Alright, so you better believe I wasn't done talking about LEGO Western after only one episode of Retro LEGO, so I decided, because I didn't really feature the minifigs quite as much as I wanted in that original episode of Retro LEGO, that I would go and make a video specifically about the minifigs, particularly in the Cowboys sub-theme of Western. Now, I've got to admit, I'm really proud of the cinematography in this episode. The background with the shelf with all the Western sets and kind of the orange light making it look like an Old West sunset. I just really dig the aesthetic of this video, and I'm really proud of it. Of course, with it being Western, the subject matter is really close to my heart as well, so I really like this one. I was kind of thinking because the Retro Lego episode on Western had become so popular that this follow-up would be similarly popular, but it didn't really garner much of an audience initially and kind of has fizzled out since then. So since I had already gotten monetized at that point, those things didn't really stress me out all that much anymore because hitting those metrics didn't really matter as much anymore. I have this one all the way up at number 16 out of 44, because I just really like how it looks, and of course I'm going to be pretty biased about anything that's about Lego Western. Okay, this next one is a big one. I absolutely loved playing with the Lego Harry Potter sets as a kid, particularly this first wave from 2001, so this video was so much fun to make. I also knew that you could pretty easily resell Harry Potter sets, and so I took a gamble and bought almost all of them. And I unfortunately sold them all after I made this video, which, again, that's one of those seller's remorse situations, but maybe I'll pick these up again. But I really enjoyed making this video. The background, the purplish and greenish light, just the whole aesthetic of it, I really dig. And this is one that I revisit quite a bit, because not only do I love the sets, but I really felt like the whole atmosphere of this video was just perfect for Harry Potter. I also wrote the music for this one, the theme that you hear in the background, which is almost like a How It Should Have Ended version of the Harry Potter theme. I just kind of whipped that up in GarageBand, and it seemed to work really well. I should also mention that the background music for the Western videos I also created as well, but that wasn't specifically for the Western videos. It was for a project that I made in college, but I thought, hey, I already wrote this kind of Western sounding theme, and so I'll throw it in here. But for this video, I actually wrote this score specifically for it. And because of the subject matter, the look of the video, and the original score, I actually have this one ranked at number 1. This is one that I come back to the most. I just feel really proud of the final product, and of course a lot of these top ranked ones are interchangeable, but for now, this is the one that strikes me as my favorite. Next came the Game of Bricks LEGO Light Kits review. So this is actually an idea I had very early on when I was still trying to be more of a, Bricksy type channel, more of a vlog type channel. So I did have all the light kits, and there weren't really any retro Lego episodes that I was ready to make yet, so I thought, I'll just make the Game of Bricks video. I think it's a fine video. Definitely gave me the motivation to finally put the light kit on the Harry Potter castle, because I realized after doing a couple of smaller light kits that I just do not enjoy installing light kits on Lego sets. It is tedious and time-consuming and just not very fun. But the idea of making a video gave me the motivation to finish that, so I have the video to thank for that. Otherwise, it's kind of a forgettable one, I think, in my channel. Just one that I don't really think about very often. As a result, it's down at number 40 out of 44. Okay, so here's a fun one. I wanted to maintain the illusion, at least, that I was still reviewing new Lego sets, and so when the Downtown Streetcar set got released, I definitely saw that as an opportunity to not only motorize a non-motorized set, but also integrate it into my city as a subway car. Now that's a video that comes later, but this one was actually super fun. I had never motorized anything without a tutorial before, so it was a fun puzzle to solve for myself. I just kind of spent a couple evenings going, okay, what's the best way to do this? And I eventually came up with a pretty simple and effective way of motorizing that streetcar, and I think the audience of the video responded well to it as well, and were grateful for the pointers. This video performed super well, and more than paid for the set I bought for it, and it just was really successful all around. I think it looks nice, I think it's informative, it's to the point, and not too long, not too short, and I'm really happy with this one. And it laid the foundation for my Subway project, which came later and was also very successful for the channel, so I really like this one. That said, you'd think I'd rank it higher than 28, but that's where it sits when all is said and done. Next up was Retro Lego Exploriens. This is the first video that I actually started looking for outside help to feature the sets in my videos, because I was realizing that I can't just buy and sell everything. I'm gonna need some help. So I actually hopped on the Discord for our local lug and just asked, said, you know, I've got a YouTube channel, I try and feature old sets and I can't really buy them all myself, so do any of you have collections that you'd be willing to feature? And I found someone on there named Jeff Hawkins who was so generous with his collection and his time, and we've actually become pretty good friends ever since then because of our shared love of Lego. And actually, when I started borrowing sets from other people, I would invite him over for build parties where we would build the sets and just kind of talk about Lego and have a good time. So not only has the channel led to some really good online interactions, but some great in-person interactions as well. So Jeff basically had the top several entries in my ranking. So I drove up to his house, set up everything, and just filmed them there. And then trips up to his house to film even more sets became kind of a regular occurrence. And I mentioned this in the video, but the Exploriens Starship was never a set that, on paper at least, looked like it was very good. It just kind of looked chunky and ugly and not very appealing to me. But then when I saw it in person, my gosh, that opinion changed pretty quickly, because that thing is pretty breathtaking. Awesome play features, really swooshable. I don't know, it just made a whole different impression in person, and Jeff was really thrilled that I had gotten turned around on that and actually ended up ranking it as number 1. This is another video that I wrote original music for. The theme at the beginning is all original. The music that happens after the intro is some stock music, but the intro is all made from GarageBand. Just kind of wrote something that felt like Exploriens made me feel, and then the theme for that ended up being the base for the theme of all of the Lego space rankings that came after it. So what I would do is kind of see what the feel of a certain space sub-theme was and edit the original Exploriens one to kind of match the style of that. So some of them have percussion, some of them have different instruments and bass beats, and even the UFO one ended up being in minor, which was kind of fun. But that was the beginning of the Lego space theme that ended up showing up in all of the future rankings of Lego space sub-themes. So that's pretty cool as well. I actually ended up selling all of the sets that I had acquired for this video to Jeff so that he could have a complete collection. So things definitely just worked out very symbiotically there. I really like this video. The intro I thought was really strong. I put actually the lunar rover set in the background of the first shot with some LED lights to kind of give it some more atmosphere. And I don't know, I just think aesthetically this one turned out really well, and I actually have it ranked as number 11 out of 44. Okay, so here's the big one, the subway build video. This is still, to this day, the highest viewed video on my channel at over 144,000 views. I had no idea that this thing was gonna take off the way that it did. It was just a fun project that I had had the idea for a long time, and I thought, well, it's a good time to do this, especially because the Streetcar set seemed like the perfect vehicle to put under there. So a handful of trips to Lowe's and some very amateur construction later, I had my subway system made. There's not a whole lot to further comment on here because the video itself tells the whole behind the scenes on how to build that. But this was just a really fun project to build, and it was super fun to share it with everyone. And the response, of course, was really fun to see, and it brought a lot of new subscribers to the channel, really increased my visibility, and I have that video to thank. This one I have ranked at 26 out of 44. It's definitely a fun video, just didn't really take a whole lot of effort to make. It was more of a just kind of run and gun shooting style, and so there's not really any points in it that I'm like, oh wow, that's a great shot. So it just kind of does its job well and became really popular, so I'm grateful to it for that. So ever since I had made the Retro Lego episode for Adventurer's Desert, I was itching to continue the series, but the problem is that the barrier to entry for the Jungle line is super high. I mean, the Amazon Ancient Ruins is super rare and expensive, the BLIMP is super expensive, so it took me a couple months to gather up, scrape together those sets and be able to show them. I still didn't get the BLIMP in time to make that. I did acquire that later, as we'll cover, but I really like this video. What can I say? I think the green background works really well, much like the orange background in the desert one worked well. There aren't a whole lot of sets in this sub-theme, so it didn't take a whole lot of time to get it all across. And I didn't sell any of these sets, even though it definitely hurt to buy them, which with the amount of money I was making on the channel at that point was not the most justifiable thing in the world, but you know, I didn't want to regret letting those go. The thumbnail of this one's a little wonky because I didn't really know where to put myself, and so I just kind of put myself upside down on the top, which I don't think works amazingly, but it was good enough. And this one, on the heels of the really popular Subway one, did really well, and similar to the Adventurer's Desert one, this is an older video that I really still love to this day, and as a result, it's ranked at number 7 out of 44. Alright, so some weeks there's just nothing really on the docket, so I kind of have to scramble and make something up. So I just had to think to myself, okay, what have I been doing Lego related recently? So I had taken some video at my local Brick Slopes convention, which I thought could feature well in some content, and I had recently made a new Star Wars display in my room, and so I thought, well, let's combine those two into one video, which I don't think was the most cohesive thing in the world. I don't know, the whole process of making this video was kind of difficult because I didn't have one direction I was going in. I was kind of splitting time between the two, and I didn't know what to title it. I didn't really know how to make a good thumbnail for it, so the whole process of making this just wasn't very fun, to be honest. I don't know if it hit particularly well as well, because it's still one of the least viewed videos on the channel. But it was definitely fun to show off the sets at Brick Slopes. So many fun things there, and I'll definitely be going back this year because what a fun convention that was, to be able to see all of these local builds and be able to connect with people. Actually, the Brick Slopes itself was a super important event for my channel because there's a local YouTuber named Alex Nunes who has a huge city in his basement, great YouTuber, and I had emailed him a couple times because I had seen a video he had made about a lot of classic Lego space subthemes, and I thought, oh, he lives like 10 minutes away. I am wondering if he will let me feature his collection for Retro Lego videos. So I emailed him a couple of times and hadn't really gotten a response, and he had a setup at Brick Slopes, and I kind of walked up to him and just said, hey Alex, my name's Kelton. I've actually emailed you a couple times, and being kind of naturally an introvert, this was super scary for me to do, but he was like, oh, hey, yeah, I got your emails, haven't had a chance to respond, but yeah, you know, I'll check out your channel. And so we exchanged phone numbers, and that's what kind of began my relationship with him and being able to feature a ton of his sets in future Retro Lego episodes. A couple weeks after Brick Slopes, he had me over at his house, showed me his city, and he lent me 2 big tubs of his old precious Lego sets, when I was just shocked at how trusting he was of me to not just run away with them. But that was the beginning of that, and we'll start seeing those episodes pop up as we go through these. So the video itself that came out of that wasn't great, but the results of Brick Slopes itself was hugely influential for the channel. The video itself, though, goes to number 42 out of 44. Not one of my favorites, to be honest. So next is Retro Lego Life on Mars. So when I went over to Jeff's house to film the Exploriens, and actually a couple of sets for Adventurer's Dino Island, he mentioned that he had a complete collection of Life on Mars. And I had actually gotten a number of requests in the comments to cover Life on Mars. And so I thought, yeah, I know someone who's got a complete collection. He's willing to let me show it. So I went up to Jeff's house, and because there are so many sets, I ended up making 2 trips to film this one because it took so long. There was one night where I was there till like 12:30 a.m. and so much time had passed and I didn't realize it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm here late. I'm so sorry. And he was totally cool with it. In fact, we kind of talked out by my car like 20 minutes more about different Lego themes and stuff. So featuring these sets was super fun. I had a couple of the smaller ones as a kid and was really blown away by the modularity and just the fun aesthetic. All the Martian minifigures are just so great. This was a super fun one to cover. And all filmed in Jeff's basement. The red background with the lighting to make it look orange that I had used in the Adventurer's Desert video worked really well for Mars as well, so I thought aesthetically it worked super well. So yeah, I'm proud of this one. This one worked out. And it sits at 15 out of 44 on my personal ranking. By this point, I had had a lot of requests to see behind the scenes of how I make these videos, and so I thought it was a great time to make a full episode dedicated to that. This was so fun to make. I actually filmed most of it during the filming of my Adventurers Jungle episode, because I knew down the line I was going to want to make a behind the scenes, and so I kind of had a second camera going for most of the time during the filming of that, and a lot of that content ended up in this episode. It was just super fun to share all of the kind of hacky, sort of not super professional looking setups that I have. Just to say, like, I don't have a studio. I'm just filming on my desk with some construction paper and a turntable from Amazon. I'm using kind of an old camera, an old audio recorder, and basically my phone for all of this. And so I just wanted to make it accessible to people that I don't have really much in the way of fancy gear. And it was just a really fun, rewarding video to make. And of course, it was made for basically people who follow the channel, so it didn't exactly take off or anything, but it was so much fun to make, and I just really love this video. I actually have this one ranked 14 out of 44 because of the experience of making it and the final product, both being things that I just really enjoyed. All right, next up we have one of the big hitters, the Retro Lego episode on all of the 1999 Star Wars sets. I knew that I wanted to make a bit more of an involved intro to this one, and I am probably the most proud of this intro that I am of any video on this channel. Just kind of fun and quirky, and got to do some lightsaber special effects. It was just a lot of fun to make. Not to mention, the 1999 LEGO Star Wars sets were hugely nostalgic for me. So being able to have an excuse to pick up a handful of these was super great. And then a lot of them I bought, and some of them I sold, but most of them I actually held on to. The only one I ended up selling was the Mos Espa Pod Race set, which I wish I hadn't done that because I don't know, when I kept feeling guilty about spending money on Lego, and the channel, though it was making money by this point, wasn't exactly making a ton of money, so I felt the need to offload some of the sets, and that led to some regrettable sell-offs, but I don't know, that one didn't hurt quite as much as the Sphinx set, so I actually haven't rebought the Mos Espa Pod Race set yet, but we'll see what happens in the future. Anyway, this is a video that I knew from the very beginning of the Retro Lego series that I was itching to make, and so this was super fun to bring to fruition, and it's actually ranked at number 8 out of 44, so definitely one of my favorites. Now we move on to the Aquanauts. Speaking of intros that I really like, I thought this one was super fun. It was basically accomplished by just rigging me up on a handful of Lego Lance elements and then masking them out and then adding some digital camera shake to sell the effect a little bit. But I liked the effect of me kind of swimming there, and it made a fun little cheeky intro to this. This is the first episode of Retro Lego that featured sets from Alex Nunes' collection. I knew that I was going to be getting a lot of LEGO space sets, but he also had Aquazone ones in there, and I was really pleasantly surprised by that. And though the collections weren't always complete, they were complete enough to make videos about them. And having had fond memories of the Aquanauts characters and all the pieces being in my LEGO bin growing up, this was super fun to revisit and make. The Neptune Discovery Lab in particular was just absolutely mind-blowing. I actually had Jeff Hawkins, who had helped me with a couple of previous episodes, come over and build these Aquanaut sets, and I let him build that one, and when he was finished with it, we were just in awe of it. Just a beautiful, beautiful set. This one is ranked pretty much middle of the line. I have it at number 19 out of 44. Here's another video that I wanted to prove I was still reviewing new sets, and so I picked up the newest Winter Village release, which I always pick up every October, and decided to review it for the channel. This one, very similar to the Sightseeing bus, I just wanted to keep it succinct and, just say what I needed to say and get out of there. I don't really have a lot to say about this one, as it really just was me filming it on the turntable a couple times, getting some shots, and just kind of spilling my thoughts about it. But this one is ranked at number 33 out of 44. Okay, so with the Aquanauts done, I moved on to the Aquasharks, which, as a kid, these were the ones that we always liked even more than the Aquanauts. Particularly my older brother was really into those, and so many of those Aquasharks pieces were used in so many of our own creations later down the line. So, though I didn't have a lot of hands-on experience with the sets themselves, the pieces are very nostalgic for me, so this was super fun to revisit. This is one of those tricky episodes of Retro Lego where there's only 4 sets, and so it kind of feels like, is this even enough to justify a full episode? But I think it worked out fine. I wish I had had all of them to show, but beggars can't be choosers, as these were borrowed from Alex once again. I think the intro could have been a little more creative, kind of like the Aquanauts one, but I feel like I probably just got in a hurry and just had the little water speeder zoom up to the camera and have me talk, which is fine, it's serviceable, but I do like those intros to have a creative flair that goes beyond just talking to the camera, and sometimes I pull it off, and then other times I feel like they're a little bit on the phoned in side, and that's maybe more how I feel about this one. As a result, this one's ranked a little lower than the Aquanauts one at 22 out of 44. So in October, with the release of a new LEGO Winter Village set, I thought it was an appropriate time to rank all of the Winter Village sets that had come before. This is one of my favorite new sub-themes of LEGO, and one that's been ongoing for a long time, and just thought it would be a good time to gather them all together and present them in one video. I actually have a neighbor whose dad is super into LEGO, and he had a handful of these sets as well as most of the modular sets. And so I went over to his house and filmed a good handful of Winter Village sets and almost all of his modular sets, and those modular ones I ended up using in the modular ranking further down the line. But a few of his sets, including the cottage and the train station, are featured in this video, as well as sets that I have in my own collection. I wish I had had more of the sets to feature in person again, but so many of these older Winter Village sets are really hard to get a hold of for a decent price, and so especially the old ones like the bakery and the toy shop that are multiple hundreds of dollars for these tiny little sets, I just didn't think that I could justify purchasing them, so I did need to use pictures for those. And that's fine, I think, for this. I think people understand that having a full collection of a theme that's been going on for such a long time is not exactly the most realistic thing in the world. Basically, I'll only pick up some of those older Winter Village sets if they are just at a steal of a deal. This one in the comments proved to be one of the most controversial ones that I had posted, because there were a lot of people that were disagreeing hard with my opinions on these, which is fine. Everyone has their own opinion, and I definitely welcome those in the comments. It was just funny to see the vigor with which a lot of these were expressed, and I love that. This one I'd put overall in the good category, and it's ranked at number 32 out of 44. Okay, here's one I had so much fun making. This one is the Retro Lego Halloween Special, which talks about the Manor von Baron and all of the Easter eggs from adventurers that you can find in that set. I kind of cut loose on this one and did some silly voices and laughs, and I don't know, just had a lot of fun with the general Halloween feel of it all. And it just so happened that earlier that month I had seen a really good price for this set, and so I had picked it up and built it, and it had a light kit included, so it really made the aesthetic of this video fun. I just think everything for this one really came together. There was also a theme that I had written for an old brick film that I'd wanted to make about 20 years ago that never really came to fruition, but I had written a theme song for it. The film was going to be like a kind of a haunted hotel sort of movie, and I'd written this piano theme for it, and I thought, you know what, that would work perfectly for this Halloween special. So that's what you hear in the background, that original music there. Wasn't written specifically for this episode, but it's something that I had wanted to use for something for a long time, and this just was the perfect fit. Halloween is one of my favorite holidays, and so I think I'll be doing a Halloween special every year. I'm hoping this year to do one that covers the LEGO Studios horror sets, if I can somehow get my hands on those. They're pretty rare and pretty expensive, but I've got enough time to plan for that, so that's the hope for this year. Monster Fighters would be a great theme to cover, Hidden Side, so there's a good handful of, even Fright Nights might be fun to cover. Definitely want to do a Halloween special every year and just have fun with it. This one is ranked at number 9 out of 44, so easily one of my favorite videos I've made on the channel, and just had so much fun making it. So, after the busyness of Halloween and preparing for a vacation, I just kind of scrambled to make the next video. I had originally planned to show off a Winter Village build that I had made, but it just wasn't coming together as quickly as I'd hoped, and so I had to switch gears midweek to try and get a video out that weekend. And I decided to go with an idea that I had had for a while and seemed like an okay time to do it, and it was the how much I get paid as a small YouTube creator. When I was first starting out, I always appreciated videos that people were making about their analytics, people just being really transparent and telling their story of how they got monetized and then how much money they were making. And so I wanted to make one of my own for this. And I think it's fine. I don't think the thumbnail is particularly good. I don't know if I really got my points across quite as well as I'd have wanted to. The comments section was really kind and really supportive, and that was really nice. I don't know. This one just is not really one that I ever feel the need to go back and watch. I might do an update similar to this in the future, but I don't know. It just because it wasn't really about Lego, it was more about YouTube. I just didn't feel like I enjoyed it quite as much as the other videos I've made. And so this one sits at number 41 out of 44. Speaking of the LEGO Winter Village build, this is the week that it actually got completed, and this is easily the largest mock I've ever made. And documenting it and showing it was a little nerve-wracking, actually, because I didn't know if it would be kind of laughed at, because it was my first real attempt at making a diorama like this, but people seemed to enjoy it. And it was a really good learning experience for me, doing rock work on that big cliff and being able to connect all the lighting together, finding solutions for that. And now I have so many ideas for future winter villages, and I think I have a theme chosen for this year. Definitely want to do another video like this year and do something sort of radically different every year. I don't want it to be a rebuild of what I did the previous year. I want it to always be something new and fresh. And so I have a list of ideas for future winter village builds, and I hope that they are just as fun to build as this one was, and just as fun to share as well. This one sits about in the middle at 25 out of 44. So, right around this time was the fateful trip to Bricks and Minifigs, which got me the Adventurer's Blimp. I was so excited when I picked this up that I thought, I need to make a video about this, even though there wasn't really much to say. I just wanted to share that with everyone, the excitement of it. I think getting a white whale set is always just a super exciting time, and so hopping on the channel and just making a quick little video about it seemed like the appropriate thing to do. I also wanted to do it almost as an update to the Adventurer's Jungle episode of Retro Lego, just to say, hey, I know in that video I mentioned that I didn't have the blimp, but I do now. I finally found it. So it was kind of connected in that way as well. Fun fact about the blimp is that I actually don't have the same blimp that I showed in that video anymore, as there is a person who's been lending me sets through shipping that said, hey, I have a really well restored version of the blimp, and it looks like I could restore the stickers on yours pretty easily. So if when I send the next shipment of sets out to you, would you like me to send my blimp and then you can send yours back and I can restore it at no charge? And I thought, first of all, that's incredibly generous, and yeah, of course, I would love to do that. So the blimp I have now is actually a little nicer looking. The stickers are in better shape, and I certainly hope that he's able to restore the one that I had before to the level that he had for this one that I have now. Just what a nice thing to do. I'll be talking about him. He, of course, wants his privacy kept, so I won't be mentioning who it is, but he has been immensely helpful in making some of the more recent episodes of Retro Lego, and I'll cover that when those come up. The event itself was super exciting. The videos, it's fine. It's just 2 minutes of me kind of rambling about how excited I was, so I put it at 38 out of 44. So now we're going to return to featuring Alex Nunes' collection with the M-Tron episode of Retro Lego. I had not had really any experience with M-Tron before doing this episode, and so this was kind of just a full immersion for me. I didn't even really grow up with pieces from M-Tron in the Lego bins, so it really was unfamiliar to me, but boy, did I fall in love with this series when making this video, particularly that Megacore Magnetizer. That is a class act of a Lego set. And actually, Trick Bricks recently made a video covering the Megacore Magnetizer, and he shares a lot of the feelings that I have about that set, it just being an all-timer. But the Particle Ionizer, also just a knockout set. The aesthetic of the astronauts here, I mean, it's a winner. Definitely one that I think could be a good candidate for collecting later on down the road, but for now, they had to get boxed back up and sent back to Alex, and so they're back in his loving arms once again. The only big mistake I think I made in this video was putting a black background behind the sets, because one of the main colors of M-Tron is black, that it made a lot of the sets kind of blend in with the background and didn't really have much definition. There were definitely some comments about that, and they were totally right. So for the next episode that I'm going to talk about, I actually switched the background to red, and I think that worked a lot better. Still a strong video though. I have it ranked at 18 out of 44. And next is another episode featuring Alex's collection. This one was Blacktron 2. And as I mentioned before, I switched to red as the background, not only because it made the set show up better, but red just seemed like an appropriate color for the villains of Lego Space. And Blacktron 2 was one that I had some experience with, particularly pieces in the Lego bin. Though the original Blacktron is always going to be way more favored in my eyes, going through these sets made me realize that this is a really good series as well. The base set is kind of weak for what it is, but a lot of the ships and the overall trans-neon green and white and black aesthetic really speaks to me. It's some good early 90s stuff. I think because the background worked a little better, I have this ranked just ahead of the M-Tron episode at number 17. Very similar to the Adventurer's Blimp episode, I got another fun Lego set that I really wanted to show off. This time it was a sealed copy of the Bandit's wheel gun from the Western theme. This was... I'm almost embarrassed to admit how giddy I was to open this, because it's the first time I'd opened a Western set brand new in, almost 30 years now. 28 years. And though it's a small little set, being able to open it brand new was just a great experience. And at around the same time, I had acquired a couple of other Western sets, so it seemed appropriate to just combine those into one video. So I also showed off the covered wagon that I'd been trying to get for a long time, found it at a good price with the canvas still in good condition. And I had gotten a hold of the Bricklink Designer Program General Store, which I actually built a special shelf for in the Lego room to really show it off in the Western section there. So the video itself was a bit of a mixed bag because a couple of different things were covered there, but I think it was pretty cohesive because it was all about the Western theme. Certainly not as scatterbrained as the Brick Slopes and Star Wars display one I had made earlier. The video's fine. I just was excited to show the set that I had gotten and be able to kind of document opening that on the YouTube channel. It's nothing amazing, but it was a special moment, and so the video is ranked number 29 out of 44. Alright, so reading all of the comments on my subway build video made me realize that there were some things that I could improve pretty easily that would make this so much better. So I went to work making an update video that shows all of the upgrades that I had made over time. The biggest one, of course, being those elevators that I added, which was a pretty messy and noisy process, but I think the final product is really fun to use and looks really good as well. I can certainly tell that personal building projects like this are definitely in high demand because they always seem to get lots of views right off the bat. Of course, retro Lego is where my heart is, but I definitely want to do a few more of these down the road just to serve the part of my audience that really enjoys these. And of course, tinkering around in the Lego room is super enjoyable for me as well, so I definitely get something out of it too. This was my first video after the longest hiatus I've taken, almost a month, from December 16th to January 11th. And I took that time off because I just wanted to spend the holidays with family and enjoy that time off and not really feel the pressure to make a video. Anytime that I am feeling like, oh, I really need to make a video this week, but I don't have an idea, I just say, you know what? I'm not going to make one this week, which is why there's only 44 in a 52-week year, because sometimes I just either don't want to or don't have an idea, and I don't want this ever to feel like a job, and so I will purposely, if it starts to feel like work, just kind of stop for a minute and let my thoughts kind of regather. Because I do want this to continue to feel like an enjoyable hobby and not something I'm obligated to do. And so that almost month that I took off in December and January was really good for me to just kind of regroup and spend some time with the people that matter most to me, and then get back to it when I felt like it. And that's when this Subway one came around. This was a fun one to make, and it's ranked at 27 out of 44. With the January 1st release of the Tudor Corner, I thought it was appropriate to make a ranking of all of the modular buildings. This, along with the Winter Village sets, are some of my favorite things that LEGO is making now, and the Tudor Corner actually ended up being my favorite on that list. Again, the footage from this one mostly came from my neighbor's dad, who collects a lot of LEGO. He was kind enough to let me come to his house and film most of his modular buildings. A handful of them are mine that I filmed in my own basement, but I'd say the lion's share of the footage of this video are from him. And there were a lot of people in the comments going, "You're talking about not having this set, but why am I seeing it here?" And I'm like, well, I'm just borrowing it from someone else. And there were a few things that were built incorrectly on some of those. And they were like, the SUDS sign is upside down on the police station. And I'm like, well, sorry, I didn't check that before I filmed his stuff. But it wasn't me that built it wrong. I don't know if this is one that I'm gonna try and remake every year when a new modular comes out. Maybe every few years. But it felt like since a new modular had just come out and I hadn't made one of these before, that this type of video was a no-brainer. And this one kind of sits in the middle of my ranking at 24 out of 44. Alright, here comes Retro LEGO Ice Planet 2002. I think just the color scheme alone guaranteed that this video was gonna look really good. Even the thumbnail was super fun to make, because I'm like, you just can't go wrong with these colors. There's like no way I can fail. Also, this one is very near the top of the list for me as far as LEGO space subthemes go, and making a full video on it with all the sets in hand was pretty much a dream come true. These are all part of Alex's collection as well, and much like I did with the Adventurer's Desert ranking, there were a few sets that he didn't have, but the pieces for them were largely available in the larger sets, and so I kind of took some of those larger ones and built the smaller ones. The satellite plow had a few changes to the coloring of different pieces, but I remarked on that in the video and it seemed to work out just fine. And so every set in the series ended up being able to be shown on camera in one way or another, so I was pretty proud of that as well. Super, super aesthetically just gorgeous theme and made for a really good looking video as well. And it's at number 12 out of 44. And just about this time, I hit 10,000 subscribers on the channel, and so it felt like a great opportunity to do another Q&A. This time there were a lot more questions, and so it turned into a much longer video than the first one. But again, it's just so much fun to see what questions you guys have and to be able to just have a moment to have a dialogue with all of you. I certainly have plans of doing this again at other milestones. Probably the next one will be 20,000, and we'll see where it goes from there. But I think making Q&A videos like this will always be an essential part of the channel because the back and forth is just so much fun. Much like with the 1,000 subscriber special, the nature of these videos is a little more ephemeral, so they're not quite as memorable to me. So this one is ranked at 36 out of 44. Okay, next up is Retro LEGO Space Police 2. This is another theme similar to Tron that I had zero experience with as a kid, and so this was a good opportunity to discover something new. I do feel, however, in hindsight, that this episode was a little bit rushed. I felt like the opening animation was a little on the lazy side. And I was in a play at the time, so I was super busy and kind of editing backstage a lot of the time, and so it felt like this one was a little more on the rushed side. And it turned out fine, I think, but as far as the Retro LEGO episodes, it's a little less memorable to me than some of the other ones. It ended up as number 34 out of 44. Alright, we're heading into the home stretch here with Adventurer's Dino Island. I had actually filmed a good chunk of the footage for this at Jeff Hawkins' house in the summer of 2024, but I hadn't really scraped all the other sets together until much later. But finally, I was able to grab a couple of these for good prices on Bricklink and was able to make the full episode. I had always regarded Dino Island as way, way inferior to all of the other Adventurer sub-themes, and though I still think it's the least good out of all of them, I feel like I maybe had let other people's opinion kind of affect mine, because when I was just looking at the sets in a vacuum, I mean, they're pretty good overall. I think the main base is a bit weak, and there are definitely some pretty glaring issues with the T-Rex transport set, but a lot of the smaller sets, and particularly the Island Hopper and the All-Terrain Trapper, are just really strong sets. I think if I were to rank every Adventurer set of all of the sub-themes, those would be kind of near the top in a lot of ways. And so, though as a whole, it feels like kind of the ugly stepchild of the Adventurer series, it's got some strengths, and I'm really happy that I was able to cover these and be able to change my opinion on that somewhat. The video itself, much like the other Adventurers videos, was just a blast to make. I obviously have such an affinity for Adventurers, and the intro with the plane turning off and everything was just a pleasure to make. And so it gets the number 13 spot out of 44. Now on to the final episode that I was able to use Alex Nunes' collection for, the Retro Lego episode for UFO. Now, UFO is one that I have a lot of direct nostalgia for because it hit in 1997 when I was 7 years old, and still, to this day, I actually was visiting my parents' house recently, and a lot of those quarter saucer pieces are still in their Lego bin, and so these were everywhere when I was a kid, and I just loved them so much. A fun fact about this video is it's the only Retro Lego episode that was filmed with a different camera from the rest. This one was filmed with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, while all of the other ones were filmed with my 5D Mark IV. I was just basically testing out the camera to see how well it would work for these episodes, and though there were definitely some advantages it had, and I think it worked particularly well for this episode, overall, I think the advantages that the 5D has still outweighed the ones that the Blackmagic did, and so I didn't end up using it for any future episodes, but kind of a fun departure from the usual equipment that I use for these episodes. I think the intro to this, particularly the space theme that I composed being turned into minor, and just the way that the aesthetic all came together is really, really something I'm proud of. I thoroughly enjoyed putting this episode together, and it was a great final episode in the Alex Nunes featuring era of Retro Lego. And this one just makes the top 10, sitting at number 10 out of 44. Next, I took a bit of a left turn into the video game world with my ranking of the quests in Lego Island. Now, there is no game, probably, that I played more as a kid than Lego Island, and so I was really, really excited to get a copy of this working on my PC, and I made sure when I was making this video to just enjoy playing the game first, and not really worry about what was going to go into the video. And then the video ideas just started to come naturally as I reacquainted myself with this childhood game. I'm not sure the format worked necessarily super well, ranking the different quests in Lego Island, but because that's kind of been the format of most of my videos, that is what seemed like the best way to present it. I don't really know what would have been better necessarily, but I don't know, it felt like more of a cohesive playthrough might have been a little better, but yeah, we ended up with what we ended up with, and anything Lego Island related is going to be fun in my book, and it was a good excuse for me to pick up an Infomaniac minifigure. Those things are going usually for about $50. I found one for $40 on eBay, which seemed like a good enough deal, and it was definitely a pleasure to feature him in the opener. I did kind of a crummy impression of him at the beginning and seemed to work okay. This one kind of fits in the good but not great category at number 20 out of 44. Okay, so this next video is an idea that just kind of randomly came to me as I was just going about my regular daily routine. I thought, well, I'm the retro Lego guy. What's the oldest Lego set ever made? And I didn't know, so I had to go research it. There's a little bit of difference of opinion on that, but I settled on kind of the prevailing opinion, which is that it's the Garage from 1955-56. There are some people, and this definitely showed up in the comments, that think that the automatic binding bricks set from a few years earlier was actually the first official LEGO set. I can definitely see the merit in that argument, but because the LEGO system of play was introduced in 1955 and was actually marketed as LEGO System and had all of the guidelines attached to it and were actually called LEGO bricks, that this was definitely the first actual LEGO set, even though the bricks had existed before. I just got really lucky because when I thought of the idea, I hopped on eBay and looked for it, and a super reasonably priced copy of this was available from a seller in Germany. It took a while to get here, but when it did, it was in fine condition and was perfect to feature in the video. It seemed a lot of people were curious about what the first LEGO set was because this video did pretty well right off the bat. I really like this one, but with so many videos that I like more, this one sits at 21 out of 44. Next comes one of the most personally significant episodes of Retro LEGO that I've done, the one on LEGO Studios. As I mentioned in the video, I pretty much have LEGO Studios to thank for my interest in filmmaking and making movies with LEGO. Just about every set that I build for the channel, I build with my 6-year-old daughter, who just really enjoys that time with me. And when I was building these sets with her, I explained to her that these were actually intended for making LEGO movies. And she immediately expressed a super excited interest in helping me to make the intro for this episode. So she lent her voice to the beginning little skit, and she also operated the remote shutter for the camera, so she was like my little assistant, and she really enjoyed being a part of making this. She came up with a lot of the ideas and was kind of with me when I was editing it together and gave her opinions on things. It was just a super fun bonding experience with her and made this one extra special. Not to mention, just revisiting so many of these sets that I both had as a kid or just wanted so badly as a kid was a tremendous explosion of nostalgia for me. Also, using the backdrop from the LEGO Studios Movie Maker set I think was a really good touch here and just tied the aesthetic together really well with the box art and the elements that were included with the set originally. This one I actually have ranked at number 2 out of 44. I just love this episode. Alright, the next 3 are going to be the Orient Expedition videos. The first one covers the adventure in India. So the way I was able to get these sets, as I mentioned before, I had someone who's a fan of the channel contact me, and he's been collecting for many, many years and has so many themes available, and he basically offered to ship them to me if I just pay the shipping costs, so I could feature them in my videos, and I just couldn't believe how just generous that was, especially because I'm not someone he knows, so I'm super, super grateful to this person, and these 3 episodes covering Orient Expedition would absolutely not have been possible without his help. And there are many themes in the future that he's offered to help with as well, which I'm just incredibly grateful for. Orient Expedition I wasn't super familiar with because even though I had seen them in the catalogs from around that time, I had basically entered my dark age at that point, and so even though I had kind of a passing knowledge of these sets, I didn't really know what was in store, but I was really blown away by this theme, guys. I mean, I had no idea that adventurers went this hard for their final outing. As far as the video goes, in our playroom, we have kind of these sound dampening tiles that make up a world map, and I thought that would be a perfect background for these videos, and I really like how that turned out. It really makes this sub-theme of adventurers feel distinct from the others, and it really highlights the globe-trotting nature of the adventure. And when you have great sets to feature, I mean, it just makes my job super easy. So the India episode I have ranked at number 4, the Himalayas episode I have ranked at number 5, and the China episode I've got ranked at number 3. So as you can tell, this series is one of my favorite accomplishments on the channel, and I think everything came together really well to make a great conclusion to the Adventurers Retro LEGO episodes. And now that I have footage of all the sets, the door is now open to make all sorts of Adventurers content, like ranking the vehicles, the characters, the sub-themes themselves. So many things that we can explore down the line. Well, that was a complete and hopefully not too long walk through all the videos that I've made in the past year. As always, thank you so much for your support, and I'm looking forward to another year of taking this journey with all of you. And until next time, as always, keep building.